a lot. Betsy used to be one of the mid laners with the lowest farm in his team. He was ranked 9th or 10th out of all the mid laners in LCS in terms of farm share. We thought when Forgiven was going to step in, that was going to get even worse. But then again, Forgiven turned into more of a utility AD carry on the likes of Corki, and Betsy started stepping up, getting more farm and doing well with it. So yeah, we'll have to see if that plays out the same way in this series.
Well, that dynamic's going to change again with Pinoy coming in. But now we do have the first couple of bans coming out. Olaf and Fizz coming in from Mousesports, and Lulu out from Gambit. Fizz has been banned against EpicSkillshot so many times, 8 times over the split so far, and Lulu will be banned out against Mouse.
So yeah, some flex picks taken off the table here so we can look at the priority. As these picks and bans play out, we have to see who gets what. Are we trading champions? Are we just locking one OP in? Braum is a champion you have to watch, yet another flex pick gone. Shen out of the equation. So things to keep in mind here is Elise, Braum, and Gangplank. Definitely keep those picks in mind, because as long as the mirror in the mid lane, Victor and a Zero are open, you can just pick one, play the other. That is generally fine.
Well, these last 2 bans will illuminate that and tell us a little bit more about what the teams are going to be prioritizing early on into this draft. It's going to be the Azir, so Victor's still open. Could see the priority on that champion. Great early on into the draft. And Gambit just needs to respond with the last ban here.
Yeah, you have to obviously keep in mind you can only take 2 picks. Yeah, they might first pick, you get something else, but then you leave open even more. So all rotations we could see is Braum first pick into a Gangplank plus X, and then the Victor is suddenly pressured. We have to see if these supports can play all these champions like Thresh and Alistar too, how that plays out. So this first game in a best of 5 is always about getting information on the opposing team and then adapting between bans. Tribute to the famous Disco Nunu. Probably not gonna come in here. Overall, I'm expecting either Braum or Gangplank early pick. With multiple counters open, I think Gangplank can pass through the ranks. So a Braum first pick is what I would like to see. But it seems like Mousesports is just locking in that GP first.
Yeah, GP comes in as the first pick, and Mountain does play Braum, so we could see that coming out as well. Gambit, what are they going to bring out here? There's lots of power picks, as you mentioned, still open from the banning phase. Elise would be one of them. Potential counter picks as well for the Gangplank. Riven still open. Cabashard again strikes me as a person who could pick up that champion.
Not sure if Gosu has been practicing all of Braum, but it feels to me that he should be able to play that champion. And Braum Elise would be a solid rotation here from Gambit, but by no means would it be faulty from them to pick, for example, Victor Elise, to just see what does Mousesports, especially Ginge, in his first game here have as an answer when these top tier 1 mid lane champions are both picked and banned.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting as we go through the rest of Champions League, because Jins was an entirely different player from Sayo in terms of how he plays, his champion pool. I know he's been playing a lot of Cassiopeia, Ahri, but he used to be an assassin player, and now maybe he's adapted to the meta. We don't know yet. We just haven't seen him in competitive. And this first game will be very revealing for not only him, but the entire team of Mousesports. Ramesses hovering over it. It was a Dan special, but I doubt we're going to be seeing it right now.
Yeah, and Gambit's saying, okay, we don't want to match that passiveness in the bot lane. We're just going to pick an aggressive laner in Kalista. We'll match that with a lot of champions that Gosu Pepper plays well. He could even go Kalista Annie, he could go Kalista Thresh, and put on the heat, put up pressure in the bot lane. This relieves pressure on Cabashard in the top 2. If Mousesports choose to swap, then they're swapping with a Gangplank. Don't really want that all too much either. So good pressure early in the pick and ban phase, but surprisingly no prioritization on Braum just yet. Quite disappointing, honestly, from Mousesports for me.
Not just yet, but we've seen a priority on Braum increase through best of 5, so that may change as we get through this one. This is only game 1, and Rek'Sai will be that pickup from Dan, where he's spoken about his playstyle on that champion. Kennen comes out, could be support, probably going to be support, as Gangplank has been picked up.
Yeah, Dan with that Rek'Sai is honestly interesting to watch, to say the least. He really becomes a split pusher in some of the games. Sometimes he just plays standard what you would expect, just adding a lot of pressure and vision. To see what Gambit will reply here with. They have a wealth of options. Perhaps they find themselves baited into the Victor, because it's weird, because Mousesports ban Azir, but then they put no early pressure on the Victor, and because Mousesports has already revealed their top laner, Gambit can just lock in potentially a top laner right here and save the counter pick for their mid laner. But there's also the possibility of, mid lane Gangplank shenanigans, so they seem to really want to wait and play around Cabashard. That was the man we said over at the Analyst S2, this is the man to watch, the potential carry for this series. That's why they're giving him the last pick, the counter pick.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. As you mentioned, GP could be mid lane, saw GBM pick up that one, very, very strong. And Victor and Fresh will be the next 2 pickups, so we are going to be seeing that Fresh onto Gosu. Big pickup of Mountain as well, be interesting to see where he goes from here. Braum is still a possibility. Yeah,
double flex there. GP could go both mid and top, Kennen can go both top and support to an extension mid, but it's not quite the best mid. But we've seen Kennen support over in LCK, so definitely can be played. You know, AoE shutdown, CC to perhaps punish Kalista Thresh. Probably weaker lane though. If we do end up seeing the Sivir, they're likely, very likely that Mousesports will have to initiate a swap, because Kalista Thresh right now is just a phenomenally strong lane.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the bot lane from Mouse is a bot lane which does tend towards those double ranges, so Kennen would fit into that. But we're still looking at these hovers. We only have a couple seconds left before they lock it in. It's going to be the Malphite and Sivir, so presumably that's going to be support Kennen, but we've seen support Malphite as well in Challenger. Yeah,
I've played a couple times against support Malphite, not quite sure what I think about it. I think it's okay if you can play against bot lanes that aren't organized very often, but I think it can get punished too hard and just offers too little 1-6. In addition, if it was a standalone AD carry, Corki springs to mind something that can fend for his own, but Sivir just needs some assistance farming, especially under this amount of pressure. Lane swaps perhaps, but interesting composition from Mousesports. They want to, hard engage on the hunt. Malphite ulti followed up with just a wealth of CC, and then that offensive CC just offers a lot of zone for Gangplank to just wreak havoc in. And I think that's okay. Going in a best of 1, game 1, I like teams that just go aggressive, even if it might be a little bit too far and they have to scale it down. I'm a big fan of that playstyle. I think you gain a lot of information that way. You have a very simplistic playstyle that is very, again, like Mousesports usually is one-dimensional, because it's easier to get used to the stage, especially if you're a new team, to have a clear game plan. Don't make no complex double split push 1-3-1 double teleport composition where you need so much communication. No, keep it simple. Press R, win game, or lose. And that seems to be something Mousesports is going for.
Yeah, and that's what Mousesports has been doing, simplifying the strategies, executing it well, and this is going back to basics for them as well, which I like. They're going back to the team fighting versus the heavy objective control that we saw over the last couple of series we've seen them in. So the last pickup from Gambit was the Hecarim going into the top lane, so they did get that in as their last pick. That'll be going on to Kabashard. Speaking about the Smite as well in the top lane.
Yeah, Smite, Hecarim, top laner, no Ignite for the kill pressure. Does well if it gets swapped upon, because obviously it has Smite, so double jungling becomes easier. I do think Mousesports, they will want to look for a swap here. That in addition to getting their lanes through a rough laning phase, it also eliminates Kabashard as a threat a little bit more. The one thing that worries me, however, is how one-dimensional their composition is in terms of damage. Gangplank, full physical. Sivir, full physical. Malphite has AP damage, but if he gets put in a lane swap, which is beneficial for this composition, the magic damage in the late game will be very far and few in between. And then, obviously, Gambit can itemize a lot easier into that.
Oh, Enero and Sean shaking hands for the first time today. There'll be many more times, I'm sure. But as we do head into the game, send your predictions over at LOL Esports on Twitter using those hashtags MOU win or GMB win if you think they're going to reclaim their spot. Who will be taking that last spot we have today in the 2016 Spring Split? We're about to find out.
We are about to find out, at least game 1, and we get a lot of information. I want to see, definitely looking forward to game 2. I always love watching best of 5 series, mostly to see how teams adapt. I think last series showed that it was still too slow, especially on the side of Gamers 2. They did manage to call that victory in the end, in case you've missed it, but it was not due to a massive amount of adaptation between picks and bans, but just more bravado, more team play, just more comfort picks overall.
Yeah, we have some of those over on Mouse. As we mentioned, Dan has picked up the Rek'Sai, usually one of his priorities as we've gone through the split. It's banned out against him a lot of times. Usually you would ban it against him and then it would put him on one of his crazier picks in the jungle, which is something that the Challenger teams were able to exploit. But as we head into this game, Mouse will be on this composition, putting the GP mid lane as well. Something will be interesting to see because Jinx is the wild card in the setup.
And Mouse is not going for the traditional invade where you put 3 deep wards to then not only have to guess the lane swap, but be able to predict it and adapt to it, dividing the map in half. They are going for a lane swap, but they're putting Sivir, sneaking them in the brush, relying on the fact that Gambit goes bot lane a lot. Gambit in the season, I think, was one of the teams that ended up in standard lanes, whether it was 2v2 top or 2v2 bot, the most out of LCS teams. So Mouse trying to break that pattern right here, sending their AD carry top for a sneaky ward. It looks like both jungle starts will transition normally, so no 3-buff shenanigans. So we should see an even game with a lane swap.
An even game. right now. So CabaShot, by the way, swapped up to Ignite last second, so everything we talked about in Picks and Bans is going to be changing up, and as you mentioned in that lane swap, then CabaShot not going to be as good in that double jungle.
I like what Gambit's doing here. They could go for the greedy Grom start, say we really want to smack the lane 2v2, but if you then find out that you get swapped upon, you have problems. They saw Ghost Pepper invade. Mouse, they had that ward in Tribush. This is a good adaptation by both teams here. Starting at the so they know it's a lane swap, and now we see Dan moving in. He's going to get a free smite. So really smart positioning here by Mouse overall.
Yep, Dan gets the smite down. He's going to be taking away that experience, but he's taking a lot of damage in from Pinoy. Didn't go for that Ren. First off, that's the Ignite coming down. He's ticking out. He may actually burn. Whoa, that was actually going down to about 13 HP
Pinoy cancelled an auto attack there in the very end. That should have or could have been Gambit first, but really greedy at the end for Mouse. Just wait until the golem drops low enough and then smite and get the hell out of there. But aggressive move from Gambit, getting information, that's very key. You can't play with zero vision in River and then play back on your map, because then you can get exploited. So they move in aggressively. Edwards, fantastic scouting overall, but then yeah, Mouse mind game them by hiding in the rush because they use that one ward to their advantage. But that could have changed the pace of game one tremendously already. And now Binsu is just having a bit of a stroll all the way from bot to top, so he's already falling behind CabaShot.
Yeah, the tempo could have been changed, but it hasn't right now. Gambit did burn 2 summons for the flash, and then the Ignite on Gosu versus just the flash from Dan, so Mouse did come out a little ahead in that, but now we have the rest of the laning phase to pan out.
Yeah, overall in terms of experience though, Gambit gets the better end of it. Their top laner will get the bounce from the tower and the bot lane quicker. They've started pushing the tower faster. It's already down to roughly half HP. And getting the time they can launch Spiral CabaShot forward and just get him ahead in this game. And this is why we really like seeing that traditional 3 Deep Ward start, split the map up in half, because there's almost no counterplay than forcing your opponent to do the same, because you just have more vision control on one side of the map and you can punish, and if they don't mirror your play, you can just end up diving the top laner. That's why this lane swap is so common here over in Europe. And Mousesports don't really have that knowledge yet, it seems, or they try to do something kind of peculiar, but in the end, Mouse, Binsu right here, yeah, slightly behind CabaShot already.
Yeah, but he will be getting all of this gold from the tower, whereas CabaShot and Pinoy shared it in the bottom lane. Actually, Gosu as well, he was actually behind that turret, so that was split 3 ways. And Diamond will be taking away this red buff as well, to track what Dan's doing.
Now, it wasn't a perfect wave bounce on the bot lane there for Gambit, but it doesn't really matter. We sometimes harp on it that you have to bounce the wave, but if the enemy bot lane is already approaching towards your lane, there's no point in freezing it, because that will again lead to you being dove under the tower. The smart thing to do is just then immediately push it back, and that's what CabaShot did. Push back a few creeps, and now he's gonna base, so at least he can move to the other side of the map in case the enemy AD carry freeze. So a lot of reaction plays here, but Gambit so far seem to have a good grasp of how to lane swap. CabaShot going back to the top lane, it seems, and we're finally gonna get that 2v2 with the lane freezing actually back or being pushed back into Gambit. So Pinoy and Ghost Pepper should be able to catch that wave in the bottom without being dove. Imagine if this was just CabaShot, then he would obviously run the risk of getting dove on the turret and lose so much farm. And that is something Gambit want to avoid at all costs.
And Beansy was heading into the bottom lane, but has reconsidered and is now going elsewhere on the map. The wave is pushing into him in top lane, so it will get there eventually, but it's going to have to take a long stroll up there, Krepo.
And that is generally an indication that teams are just not communicating well or planning ahead. The fact that Beansy walked to the bottom and then is like, oh, God, I guess I'm walking top lane now, is just a very indicative moment of, yeah, we lack the shot calling, we lack the big picture, and this could already spell out many things for this series.
Could do. He is heading up there now and has arrived at his destination. Took the scenic route, but he's there eventually. Diamond Prox, the man in the jungle, another big carry for the team. Has been a little inconsistent over the split, but has definitely had his highs, as we saw earlier on.
And Diamond Prox just got the information that he was seen on the ward. Otherwise, Binsu would never back off there. Diamond is fine doing that because he can fend for himself when he finds the Rek'Sai. Good deep warding here by Mouse, but overall, look at how Binsu is already dropping farm. And the 2v2 in the top lane, Elise, Hecarim is stronger than Malphite Rek'Sai right now and pretty much at any point in the game. So again, this is playing for CabaShot. He has all the freedom to do what he wants. He's now 10 to 25 CS. There's a couple extra creeps in that waves, maybe 8 or 9. That Binsu could technically get under that tower, but now Diamond Prox eliminating the backup too. Instead of waiting to fight 2v2 top, now he's just saying, well, I'll just fight you in your jungle, and this is what Diamond Prox is known for traditionally. Go back to Season 2, he was the guy that literally invented counter jungle. He's putting some pressure, and it's nice to see that Gambit is playing well together.
Yeah, and now that Diamondprox has forced Dan out of his jungle into the bottom side, now he just goes top lane, and Beansu will be by himself. Level 5 here. Remember, he has the repel. He wants to be taking the aggro here. Shot to set this gank up. Remember, Cam Barrage is up, and it comes down as well. Beansu's taking a bunch of damage now underneath this tower, still ticking down from the Ignite. Diamondprox just finds him with the Venomous Bite. Simple, up in the air, comes back down, and walks on out. He's going to take a couple of tower shots there.
Good patience overall from Gambit, pulling that play off, and honestly, poor planning. It was very obvious that this could happen when Dan got forced out of his jungle. He should have taken the long route back to top lane, because you can't afford this matchup to snowball. You can't afford your Malphite to fall behind for many reasons that we mentioned already in champs, like how one-dimensional your damage output is if Malphite doesn't get rolling, how important Cabochard is for Gambit as a carry, and Cabochard and Diamondprox, that synergy, just fantastic. You know, they zone off Beansu off the farm earlier. Cabochard gets Dan in the jungle, forces him away, then goes for the dive. Even Cannon Barrage wasn't enough to keep them alive. And yeah, Mouse rather, I'm saying Mountain because I read the MOU, just slowly falling behind.
Yeah, and we've already seen like 2 or 3 mistakes coming in from Mouse, be it in the lane swaps or just Dan's decision making. Beansu moving from lane to lane, not really seeing the entire picture. And Gambit are just getting these small advantages. So, Diamondprox is going to be donating this over to the mid lane, which we haven't really spoken about too much, as everything's been happening in the side lanes. So true for lane swaps, but Jinx has just kind of been farming up, 62 farm right now, sat on that Fade, so of course building towards the Triforce, the Infinity Edge, the build that we typically see.
Yeah, both mid laners comfortably farming right now. Betsy gets the wave clear, so he'll be a lot easier for him to just keep pushing in that wave, adding pressure. There's pressure out of Cabochard already in the top lane, pressure from teams because there's a pause, and then in the bot lane everything is pretty even. Actually, looking at it, I lied, it's not even. Seems that Mountain and Cedric actually had a couple of nice strays, and in a bit of a, not even an item advantage, putting Pinoy and Edward down 24 CS. That's actually big. Something that we completely glossed over when we were watching how hard Cabochard was dominating. This matchup, Thresh Sivir into Kennen, Thresh Kalista into Kennen Sivir should be alright. Overall, double range, you have the passive. It's a bit tricky if you're not used to playing against Kennen, but if there's any player that knows Kennen support, it has to be Ghost Pepper. He's played it himself very often, so a bit peculiar that they're behind. We'll have to watch it later, perhaps on the analyst desk, to see what exactly happened in that bot lane. Overall, Gambit still have a good footing in the game. Goal difference only reached 400 though.
Well, as an update, it is actually Ghost Pepper's keyboard who currently has an issue. Do need a keyboard to play League of Legends, so it's fairly important right now. But yeah, as you mentioned, that bot lane, and Cedric and Mountain, we literally just said in Champion Select that they are a bot lane who just goes even. They do well.
Net neutral, but
yeah,
apparently
not so neutral anymore.
Times change.
Yep.
And now they're 20 CS up in that ball, and they'll need to carry. We'll need to see mid lane Gangplank and Sivir spike before Gambit can itemize pure armor, because this Malphite isn't going anywhere. He will still provide the utility in a sense, so he can get that hardcore engage, that knock-up going for the damage and the barrels to pile on. Luckily in the late game, even if you go pure armor build, Gangplank powder kegs will obviously still negate 60% of the armor. That's why you don't build the Last Whisper, because these barrels is what you're all about. You just build 2 Infinity Edges and crit the hell out of the enemies, and hopefully that works out. So Mouse by no means are out of this game, but early game, just in terms of strategy, I do give the edge to Gambit.
I also want to look a little more at mid lane, because since we haven't seen so much of it, I just want to see Jinx's barrel mechanics, you know? Because they were changed slightly in recent patches, but right now you have this combo where you put a barrel down, you put another one down, you shoot the first barrel, and you can do it with 3 barrels where you shoot the first one and place another one as the explosions are coming through. So
this is still the old Gangplank. We're on 5.50, not anywhere near what is on live.
Yep.
You can chain barrels, which means you can send out your Q first and then chain them up to a 3rd barrel. You can't do that with just 1 barrel and then placing a 2nd. You need 3. And traditionally, when you're watching mid lane Gangplank, the thing you want to watch for is one or two barrels at each side of the mid lane in the fog of war. Then you can place one outside of auto attack range of your enemy, and then suddenly you have a zone that extends all the way to the middle of the lane, where you then obviously you proc your 1st barrel, then you place the 3rd barrel, and then they chain together and you try and punish him. It's pretty doable to land some hits on Victor. That's why you see Betsy always walking up forward, cleaning the wave, and just getting out. There's no point for him even getting close to the tower. I'm checking on my screen right now. Jinx's tower is still on 85% of HP. However, he is consistently being pushed in, and that allows Diamondprox the freedom to move in, invade, and find Dan. And if we find Dan, then we can start capitalizing on that, force him out, and move to different lanes to start diving. So that's why Diamondbox can do these invades mainly because Betsy is still pushing that mid lane.
Yeah, we've also seen how Dan just doesn't really know how to react to those situations. Like, oh, you're fighting me, I guess I'll just go elsewhere.
Yeah,
like,
it's the matchup almost. If Elise gets a jump on any other jungler, she is 90% likely to just win that, and that's especially a player with the confidence and the bravado of Diamondbox should be able to do that.
This is a team that a lot of people were saying that could potentially make playoffs, if not even worlds, but now we see them in the potential relegation up against Mouse. This is a different Mouse that we've been seeing. Of course, the mid lane is a big deal in that one. Teleport coming into the bottom lane. Downprox is there as well. Sejin and Mountain. Sejin already cocoons up into the CC chain from Gosu, who's going to be flashing over the wall, but Pinoy's got him. Cannon Barrage comes down, but it's just going to tickle Gambit. And Mountain was return a little bit of damage, but he's support cannon. What's he going to do?
Yeah, fantastic 5-man play here by Gambit, and it all starts with Betsy pushing in the mid. He peels off, and then we have Diamondbox invading. Why? Because he has the pressure from Betsy. Drops a ward, Cabochard teleports when his wave is pushing back in the top lane, and just open up an opportunity to shut down Mountain, or Seduan rather, who were getting so far ahead against the other bot lane, Pinoy and Gosu Pepper, and that's what they did. So they found their weak spot immediately, and they found it. Not only did they find it, they punished the opponent that was aggressing, and that's really, really good map play here overall from Gambit. In addition to that 1 kill on Summoner's Blown, they get a dragon on top of that, so fantastic play on the map from Gambit.
Yeah, Gambit have taken so much just from that one play, and it's just one step ahead of Mouse in everything that they've been doing so far in the entirety of the map. Dan coming back in, simply just farming his jungle. Have not seen a lot of interactions with Dan and his lanes, also because Diamondprox has been up in his grill, but Dan usually is way more aggressive.
Dan did the smart thing here, and he went for the... Once this play was made, Gambit, they made a play that had no counterplay. At the point where it happened, there was nothing Mouse could do to change it. So instead of Dan migrating to the bot lane to try and help out where he couldn't, he just migrated into the enemy jungle, stole the red buff, and tried to cross-map as much as possible. They did alleviate some pressure out of Binsu, who can now farm and tighten that CS gap, but still 12 CS ahead on Cabochard. Use teleport and ulti. Levels are roughly even. And the problem is, even though that 1 kill went down, it didn't really do too much because this bot lane is still poking out Gambit continuously, and the Thresh Kalista matchup does really good in small trades where you can proc to passive, but it does seem that the poke is just outweighing on them, and they really need to go for an all-in. If they can't find that all-in to kill Sivir or Kennen, then yeah, they're slowly just gonna get whittled down and lose their tower.
The gold disparity is still there as well, 89 to 63 right now. That's been converted into those items. BF Sword picked up by Cedrian, as well as the Bushwater Cutlass from Pinoy. Cabochard just deciding to farm behind the turret now. Why not?
Cabochard putting some pressure. Do remember that Binsu's teleport is up, so every play comes with a cost. The cost for that play for Gambit on the bot lane obviously is teleport advantage towards Mouse. This puts even more pressure yet again on Pinoy and Edward. If that problem that they had earlier isn't solved by now, then they have the problem in the sense that there's now teleport pressure on top of you. You have teleport pressure from Gangplank. You have Cannon Barrage pressure. This is why they have to play so far back, because if they overextend at any given moment for that all-in that they so desperately need, they will find themselves punished even harder, lose their tower and lose control of the right side of the map. So that is what's weighing on Gosu Pepper, in addition to what seems to be some malfunctioning keyboards. So we hope to get that fixed as soon as we can. Yeah,
but looking at Mouse is still a timed window, right? Because Gambit, they just wait it out, and if Mouse don't do anything proactive, Gambit just don't do anything. It's like, okay, we'll just repeat our plays once again, pick up another kill, pick up more objectives, the cycle repeats. Mouse have not necessarily been the most proactive team. They've been a very reactive team from what we've seen from them. So they need to use this window right now. Otherwise, the same thing is going to happen again.
Yeah, and Mouse didn't get that first dragon. That's something we mentioned as well. The first dragon on the back of that play went to Gambit, and then it just, kind of screws Mouse over, because their strategy for getting into this spot where they are right now was, hey guys, let's get dragons. Yep. 4 dragons, 5 dragons every game. Their opponents even got a couple of dragons. So many dragons went down in that series, and not much else happened. Whereas Gambit, they seem to have more strategies up their sleeve. They need to fix that problem in the bot lane, though, and just buy themselves some time. Cabochard is obviously on this Hecarim going to go for Triforce first, and then he's likely going to switch into a pure armor build, because it's such easy itemization, especially now that Binsu is behind and can't really offer any poke or magic threat or all-in potential, because there's no ignite, there's no AP, no magic pen, so good position here for Cabochard, can just itemize straight up armor. Diamondbox already finished Cinderhulk, likely getting more armor later. For the few bits and pieces of magic resistance, we could see an Aegis being picked up on Gosu Pepper, and then suddenly you have a really good foundation for Gambit to build on.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, the game plan right now. Don't need to do anything crazy against Mouse, but what we need to see from Mouse is more proactivity, doing something with their picks right now. As we mentioned in Champion Select, they have this engaged composition. They've got the Malphite, got the Cannon Barrage, may even see the Raise Morale as well to just get the team in, along with Sivir Ultimate. Everything screams engage. They need to get on top of Gambit, but if Gambit already come in with the flanks with Hecarim, which is most likely going to happen, Mouse's composition will never really get rolling, and that is kind of the basis of what Mouse has right here. And if that fails, then they have to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, Mouse just need to find some teleport plays without sacrificing too much. GabaShard, I like what he does. He goes farms behind the tower and then he roams to mid. He's putting pressure on Dan here. Together with Diamond Prox, this is something we found lacking in Gambit. We praised them for having good individual players, but they weren't working together. I absolutely adore this play, by the way, what they just did right here. First step is proxy top lane. Second step, group with your jungle to force out the jungle. Third step is move into mid lane, zone the enemy mid laner off the tower, and then try and get it. Jinx is forced to use his Cannon Barrage, and meanwhile, GabaShard is really not losing anything. He can just stroll back up to the top lane, putting pressure. And this could have been an opening for Binsu. Get some breathing, some air to breathe, and then potentially teleport bot lane, you know, with that unstoppable force. Try and get Pinoy down, who has no flash. Probably could have been a play that could have been made to siege down that tower, but no counterplay, no reaction from Mousesports, and continuous pressure from Gambit overall.
Yeah, Mouse are continuously losing their globals. They still have Dan's ult, they still have Binsu's teleport as well as Jinx is in the middle lane. Whereas Dan also looking for this gank in the bottom lane.
Good vision control, though. Double pink ward, one at every entrance to the jungle. So Dan go over, on hunt gets popped, and they could just straight up go for the dive, especially when Diamond Prox is about to reveal himself top. We might see action at the other side of the map, but Dan already packing the way.
Binsu being dove once again. This time he has ultimate, but I don't think it's going to help him too much. GabaShard with the onslaught of shadows. The repel comes up. GabaShard just strolls out.
Yeah, panic play by Binsu here. He engaged when the tower angle wasn't on anybody. Look at the bottom lane. Dan finally found his way around here. Flash in from Kennen.
Mountain with the ultimate moves onto Pinoy, and the Fate Core comes out. It is enough to save Gosu for now, as they do follow up with Dan, but doesn't quite get him. So that's another kill in the bottom lane this time to Mouse.
Yeah, slightly delayed events of what we were expecting. However, Mouse can keep pushing on. There's no wave clear here, no defense. Everybody's in the top lane. No teleport for GabaShard. This might be a tier 2 tower falling in the bot lane as a result of that continuous pressure coming out of Cedrion and Mountain.
This bottom lane should be going down. There's a tower, and they will be backing off. So 3 turrets to 2 right now. Mouse are leading on those objectives. Changing from Dragon to towers, I like it. Mouse and Mountain and Dan, rather, taking up this blue buff. But something I want to draw your attention to, Krepo, is Captain Boots from Betsy. I mean, he saw Jinx as Captain Gangplank and just wanted some of that action.
Peculiar pickup. Wants this team to walk with him into the fight. Betsy, however, he's... Hang on. Cannon Barrage. Cannon goes in, stunned. But he flashed into the tower. Good play by Betsy. Surviving here, and he's adding a lot of pressure here as we see GabaShard coming. Probably not getting it too much, though. GabaShard might want to get out of there.
Yeah, barrels do hurt quite a lot, even at this level. That's another Prey Seeker slamming into Betsy. Diamond Prox on the flank as well. Cedrion coming into this lane. It's going to be a 4 versus 3. In advantage to Mouse, and great blue trinket coming in to reveal Diamond Prox. The cocoon does not quite connect. However, the teleport now comes into the tower. Mouse knew that this play was being set up. Diamond Prox comes into the air. The barrel coming down along with the lantern to Gosu. So no casualties on either side. Pinoy was on his way up, but can safely go back to the bottom lane.
Yeah, pretty much the only time you can even think about sieging mid is when Betsy's low on resources, health and mana, and he has to base. Good defense there by Gambit, collapsing on the mid lane, teleporting in. But overall, Betsy has been putting so much pressure in the mid lane because every time Jinx has to help his other lanes. Cannon Barrage is either used when he's getting roamed on 3v1 defensively or offensively on these side lanes. That leaves him exposed just with less resources overall. He finds himself outpoked, and his mid lane tower is now down to roughly a 3rd HP. So eventually Betsy's pressure will make Jinx crack. Give a slight gold lead for Gambit. Right now the gold is pretty much even.
It's also a big change as well from just the laning phase when we were stuck in that 1v1, because it was just barrels, clear out the wave, and you said yourself, it was 80%, nothing had really happened. Betsy was just clearing out the wave. Now, that has vastly changed in the middle lane, sieging away. Dan may be caught out here. Diamond Prox coming in from the left-hand side, connects the cocoon. The Voltar Spatling comes in. Cedrion is there to support, but the rest of the Gambit is lying in wait. There's the Lantern back to safety, or back to the blue, more likely. Binsu was thinking about it, finds them, backs off.
Gambit steal away the enemy blue buff. Diamond Prox together with GabaShard. Previously, Diamond Prox goes in under the protection of Gosu Pepper. Gambit are working in duos, trios as a team. This is something we see sporadically from them, but not as consistent as we do this match. So props to Chance for coaching this very chaotic Gambit overall into a lineup that works very, very well together, it seems. Going for second dragon, putting the pressure, not allowing Mouse to get them. This may give Mouse a teamfight they're looking for. Cannon Barrage preemptively, too early. They can't combine it into a fight. If you can't use the zone from the Gangplank ulti to cut off the escape and then force people to bunch up for your Malphite ulti, could prove a bit of a waste. They leave mid tower exposed though. Watch Betsy, can he clean his way?
Well, Dan was looking for Diamond procs, but again, there's the Lantern, always from Eddie. Bringing them back to safety once again. Mid lane didn't even go down from Mouse as they were zoned away. Dan was more preoccupied trying to get that pick. That's the second time I've seen Jins try to go for that barrel explosion and be stopped by Gambit. Last time actually he just shot the barrel at 3 HP, which doesn't explode the barrel.
Yeah, some questionable barrel mechanics. No gang by Mom just yet. Overall, Cedric migrating to the bot lane. This pause should give us enough time to start looking at the items because we're seeing some spikes already. Your Triforce finished on Cabochard. There's no threat just now from Binsu coming out of that Malphite. He just went for the straight armor Sunfire Cape just to add a little bit more wave pressure, a little more tankiness, just to make sure that he doesn't get 1v1 by that horse later in the game. Dan is going for traditional tank build. Looks like he's the one, the designated Aegis uppicker for his team, so no split push shenanigans coming out of him this game. We're still waiting on that Triforce in the mid lane from Jinch. He took a bit of a detour with the Average Blade, going for a bit of a bank flank instead. Quite common to see if you're doing well in the game or if you just want to scale into the late game. But overall, Gambit definitely in the driver's seat.
Definitely in that driver's seat. And Dan as well, there's still time for the Black Cleaver. This is his build. Usually goes for the Cinderhulk, combines that with extra health as well from Black Cleaver. Has picked up the Ruby Crystal, but could be anything from here. We'll see if Dan's changed up his playstyle. Cedric trying to clear out this ward here, goes through with Diamond procs. There's the ultimate this time, has zoned them away. Flash from Mountain, flash in return from Fresh. Dan now coming in, gets the knock up. Cedric also flashes over the wall. There's a lot of resources being burned from Eddie. The Prey Seeker goes wide, but the Boomerang connects and takes him down. That's one kill in here, but Gambit might be able to react. Diamond procs coming in from the side, looking for a cocoon, goes into Spider form.
Keep in mind that bot lane is pushing 2. Gambit could technically rotate away to the bot lane here. There's no pressure on the top side of the map. This would put them farther away from Malphite. Honestly, Mousesports, yes, they get Edward here, or Ghost to Pepper, but it's just too much use. And look, Gambit are just going into the enemy jungle, deporting along their way, cutting off any escape, even 4v5. They're controlling the tempo, they're controlling the map. Mousesports' wave was cleared in mid lane. Very important. When you rotate, clear the wave first. With progression, now we see On the Hunt used. Slightly nerfed iteration of it. Mountain gets cocooned.
Yeah, I mean, it's only level 1, so it's not going to last for too long. There's Dan Prox going up and does find Beansu, who comes in with the unstoppable force. They'll get the first kill onto Elise, and Jins is looking to zone with the barrels. The first one goes down. That's a return kill onto Cedric. This is all going wrong for Mouse as they get chased down by the horse. That's another kill, and Gosu gets his revenge. Betsy now coming into this bottom lane. That was a 3-4-2 in favor of Gambit.
It looked pretty once that Malphite ulti connected, but then you realize that you just used everything on catching out Edward earlier, and he just walked back to the bottom lane. He got Fates called in, got a double knock-up, double play. Yes, Jinj picked up a kill with an auto attack, but Gambit still find themselves with 1 kill up overall in that exchange, and an additional tower, and they're leaving wards to boot at the end. Again, they're just getting more and more in every little skirmish because they're playing the game smarter, they're planning ahead, and Mouse is dancing to Gambit's tune. Watch that again here, Diamond Fox. Debatable whether he should go for that aggressive play. Good repel though. Goes over to the initial position of Dan on that backside. Double knock up on Diamond Fox. He goes Papinoy, gets out, and now Jinch, he's just staring at himself in this fight. He's trying to set up these combos with a bit too much tunnel vision on the barrels, trying to chain them, but you just don't have the time to do that yet in these fights, so you require some more setup for that. An overall clean fight, clean executed by Gambit. Taking the lead now slightly, 1,500 gold, but they're already on 2 dragons.
Already taken a big advantage in this game. As you mentioned, Jins is currently sat on this Triforce, still has that Average Blade, and will build into a Ghost Blade if he's looking for it, but right now, it's just generating them more gold. Likewise for Cedric, he'll be going into a Static Shiv. Still, we do have this good engage composition, but if they engage and always lose, then there's not much point in engage. Yeah,
we've hit the 20-minute mark right now, and if you look at the stats, on average, Mousesports find themselves 1,000 gold down. On average, Gambit, 700 gold up. Roughly, true. Better Gambit, consistent Mouse in that sense that they're always behind the 20 minutes, but or on average at least. So a bit how we expected this series to play out. Honestly, Mousesports have a decent footing in the game still. but time doesn't really play in their favor, and that's what worries me for their composition.
KabaShot going back into the bottom lane, 150 CS up against Beansu's 110. Gradually just been getting ahead in the top lane, but still the bottom lane, Sedrin, the advantage that he built up down there up against Pinoy is still there, still 30 CS ahead.
Oh, this is very interesting, because obviously I'm tracking how much armor people are building here to combat this mouse composition, as we see Gambit start a siege, fight over the blue buff. Will the barrel get it? No, Diamondprox does get it. Steals it away. Take a look at the items. We see 2 Glacial Shrouds finished on the Gambit lineup. That means likely we see 1 Frozen Heart, which is a fantastic second item on KabaShot. But then the build path. Glacial Shroud plus 2 Amp Tomes on Diamondprox. I think this will be the first time I see a Ziggs this early on Elise as a jungler. And I kind of like it. All the stats do well for Elise, and it just helps with their lineup. Obviously, Pinoy on Kalista isn't the most crit reliant AD carry, but all bits help.
Every little helps, Krepo. If you're from England, that would mean a little bit more from you. But Diamondprox is going to be taking away the Scuttle Crab here, preparing for this next dragon, which is spawning in around 7 seconds. And Gambit have picked up the first 2. Mouse, will they be able to contest? They're actually being proactive this time, trying to get that vision. Blue buff is being taken over by Gambit. Praseeker comes over the wall, doesn't quite secure it. We're going over to Diamondprox this time around. Mouse move into the middle lane. They still have this vision over the area, so they are there to react if Gambit started.
Gambit have been very active on these objectives. Not only dragons, they've contested a lot of buffs, moving around to get these towers. They have a 4 towers to 3 lead over Mousesports. Mousesports lineup does like fighting around these objectives, so they're built for this. So Gambit will have to be careful. This may be the first dragon of the series. They will have to yield. You really don't want to fight this early in the game against such an easy engage. Malphite ulti combined with On the Hunt. As long as the cannon has flash, he can connect an AoE stun on multiple people. So wise from Gambit to up out of the fight. However, we see a flank from KabaShot.
Yeah, this might tip the tables. Great ultimate lands onto 4. Mountain immediately pops his ultimate defensively. Do you manage to take down KabaShot? Re-engaged by Beansu onto the back lines. Miles may just want to get out here. He is trying to get away, but a Chaos Storm makes sure he dies. Gosu with a flash. Actually, no flash, just comes in with the Death Sentence. Doesn't quite connect there. That's a 1-for-1. Both of the top lanes exchanged.
Questionable engage and flank from KabaShot. Yes, he gets the Onslaught of Shadows on multiple members, but it didn't really do all that much. And then questionable re-engage by Beansu. I think they could have just taken that fight 1-for-0. Good wave clear here by change on that gangplank, so not much else will come of it. But a bit forced. If Gambit wants to fight that dragon, why not fight them when they're distracted doing the dragon? KabaShot ups in for the teleport flank later, after the objective already down. When Gambit had control over the mid lane area, not quite sure why they want to do that. Perhaps they just felt they were stronger. It's
the ultimate overall game. The ultimate you go in when they least expect it.
Yeah, that doesn't really work that well.
No, it did not. Still, 1-for-1 trade. The first dragon for Mao's going over to them, third of the game. Gambit not going to be getting to those 5 dragons as soon, if that's what they were looking for, but they have a lot more to play with. As a Zeke's Harbinger, picked up by Diamondprox in the jungle, so we have found out what that was going into. We'll be assisting his team on that one.
It is what we expected. If you aren't familiar with Zeke's, obviously you build a procs. When it procs, you get roughly 50%, not roughly, exactly 50% crit for around 8 seconds now on 5.15. Phenomenal item overall. Do build it second on nearly any support, and especially if you're jungle build as well, then you can keep getting tanky. Ghost Pepper obviously had to spend a lot of money on those boots to improve them even with home guard this early in the game, so sunk a lot of cost into that. That's probably what allowed him to get back so quickly earlier in that fight. Remember where Ghost Pepper was caught out and then he rejoined, phase called in. So this home guard's definitely paying off dividends so far.
And Hurricane picked up by Pinoy as well, sitting on 2 items. Likewise, so is Cedrian on Sivir. Still, these teams are now kind of petering out, going back into their lanes, just farming up, getting ready for the next objective. Beansu is 0-4, has been engaging a lot, has died twice in the top lane to ganks as well. Still probably in the position where KabaShot just can't murder him 1v1, so Malphite is still fulfilling his duty as a brick wall in the top lane. Still needs those engages to go well.
Yeah, and Betsy definitely delivering the series 2-0-1. He has Luden's finished. He scores in rank 2 right now. You'll see Large finished up already, building towards even more raw AP damage, combined that with CDR boots. It's what we like seeing from Victor. Just a couple of CDR points from that CDR boots, and then just raw ability power. Blow up the enemy team. 1 laser, 1 Q, 1 Chaos Storm, and they just immediately evaporate. All he has to do is dodge Beansu's ultimate. If he can flash out of that, whether it be aggressively or defensively, turn on the fire, he can win team fights pretty much on his own.
Also, squishy targets to hit in this one as well. And Jinx's positioning has been a little dodgy, so might be able to hit him once again with that ultimate. Now, Gambit are denying completely the vision. However, KabaShot was clipped out by that ward just off to the side of Baron, so MOUs have been tipped off to this attempt. Whether they can stop it, well, Gangplank Ultimate will do so. Seeker comes across. And Zeke's used on KabaShot in the top lane, actually. Prox, great repel! Dodges out of the way of Binsu's ultimate, and Prox does flash away. KabaShot back into the meat grinder, and immediately uses his ultimate again, lands on multiple members, and he's still alive from his W. Finally goes down, but gets the double kill. That's a 4-for-1. Make that a 5-for-1 over to Gambit.
Ace for Gambit overall because Mousesports over-chased. They used their one bullet in the shotgun on Beans. With that engage, it completely whiffs. Prox lands, dodges the cannon, ultimate 2 flashes out. That's where Mousesports say, okay, drop some wards, get the hell out of there. You don't chase into a victory. You don't chase into a potential non-skillista. They can then 3-hit every single one of you. Again, the story where they overuse all their engage chasing a pick. They don't have anybody saying back off. They even used the cannon barrage too early and in the wrong position when they already knew Gambit was on Baron. Watch this again, Prox. Fantastic repel. He lands, baits out the cannon ulti, flashes out, good pathing. Keep your eyes on Betsy and Pinoy. The sheer amount of AoE damage coming out right here with the Ludens proccing too. And then Pinoy, you can even go more aggressive. He decides to start auto-attacking a little later. They just get completely wiped off the planet Earth or Summoner's Rift, whatever you prefer. And Gambit now should be able to easily close out this game.
With the Baron, with those 2 dragons and the tower advantage, Gambit should be taking a lot from this buff and have regrouped, all went back to base, all back onto the Summoner's Rift. And Jinx, with that Triforce, is building towards now the Infinity Edge for the extra crit, the extra AD, basically all a Gangplank wants in life. Isn't quite there yet. 5-0 and 3 on Betsy. He is doing so much damage. It's actually pretty disgusting. Pinoy in the middle lane, 1-1 and 8. Hasn't had a stellar game, hasn't had an incredible game, but has done what he's needed to do on Kalista. And grouping up in the middle lane, KabaShot in the top lane has teleport, Binsu does as well. And while the globals are up from MOUs, they just haven't been able to use them in this game at all in an effective manner. Yeah,
MOUs haven't been making use of their teleports at all. We see Engage here being picked up on Mountain on the support. He has that Righteous Glory. Always forget the name, always have to look over. I always want to say Talisman, but it's not a Talisman. Righteous Glory finished on him. He wants to go in. It spells out exactly what Mouse wants to do. Very predictable at this point. Good hook here by Pepper. Again, disengaged. It's passive use of that cannon barrage. And they're not tying their engagement to because they're getting caught before they have the setup beautifully done. Beanster's not even close. Mousesports even need to start looking for flanks at this point because they really want to catch Betsy and ideally Pinoy on top of him with that unstoppable force from Malphite. Then combo that, cutting off the escape route with potential cannon barrage, but they keep using key components of their combo on just idle picks and it's just not working out for Mousesports.
I literally just watched Jinx place down 3 barrels, all of which just got cleared out by Pinoy, right in front of them, and it's like, well, you have no barrels, we'll just take this tower, you have no wave clear now. And it's just a little weird. I don't know. It's something they've practiced with, it's something that didn't work out. I'd like to see something else from Jinx in the next series, but it's still a best of 5. There is a lot of room to maneuver, and this was still both teams reading each other and just getting information on each other, as we said in Champions Select. So now MOUs maybe have a better read on what Gambit do in the other game.
Goes to Pepper here on the side looking for another hook, and even though he and Pinoy fell behind early game, Gambit as a team covered up that weakness and used it to their advantage to start forcing fights with the members that were ahead. Betsy moving in earlier, KabaShot with some good TPs that he could do because he had that added pressure on the top lane. He never really lost anything. Whenever KabaShot joined these fights, he never sacrificed anything for himself. Mostly due to the merit of Prox positioning well on the map. Another tier 2 tower is about to fall here for Gambit. Full control of the game, and at this point, it is incredibly hard for MOUs to strike back because everything will happen not only in full vision, it'll be super predictable here. Defensive box by Edward, he should be able to walk out. Gambit can go to base and spend some well-earned money.
Yeah, Dan face first into the box, did not get the engage he was looking for. Pinoy and Prox on the way down to Dragon as well, something that MOUs pretty much shouldn't really contest here. And KabaShot's already on it. He's fairly low on mana.
They're very likely to do so though.
Yeah.
At this point in the game, they don't have much left. They know part of the members of Gambit are basing, chunked out, spent a lot of resources. MOUs was closer to the base, so there's a good likelihood that many of their members shot, and they really can't afford to play any more passive. it is go big or go home, likely go home, but this is their last chance at really redeeming themselves.
Hook onto Mountain, does get his ultimate off, but not before he really goes down. Pinoy drags in Gosu Pepper, immediately spits him back out again. KabaShot just running rampage over the team of Mousesports to get another kill to finish that one off. A 4-0 plus the Dragon. Jinx is the only surviving member left on that team, and ultimately the Dragon play didn't work out.
Didn't work out, wasn't really meant to work out, but it was the best out of a lot of bad options left for Mousesports at this point. Gambit took full control of the game here in the later stages with some good shot calling, some good maneuvering. Looking to finally open up their first inhibitor in the series, 31 minutes in, and overall, we've seen a strategically coordinated Gambit Gaming, and it pleases me to see that, and they really want to stay in the LCS. Not only that, they want to do well, it seems. If they can keep doing this line of play, they definitely should be able to avoid relegation next season come, because honestly we see some better shot calling than we've seen in the bottom of the LCS tables overall.
This is definitely a Gambit that is on point in this game. Definitely looks like an LCS team versus the Challenger team. But what else do Mouse have in their back pocket? That's the question, because they definitely have prepared. This is a very different composition. And Gosu Pepper, thinking about warding, I'm going to back it off.
I think it's the wrong approach to put a passive tank that will never die on the top lane to try and neutralize KabaShot. I really think you need to fight fire with fire, bring out the Fiora, the Gangplank, Aurelia perhaps, and just try and snowball it with the more aggressive jungler. Don't give the stronger 2v2 to Gambit, because that's always been one of their strong points. The synergy between Diamondbox and KabaShot has always been good. What has been lacking sometimes is the synergy between Gosu Pepper and Diamondbox, especially in terms of vision. Both like warding, especially Diamondbox wards a lot, but it was inefficient vision, it wasn't placed in unison, and it wasn't placed with a goal. This series, we clearly see Gambit grouping up. The goal here is Baron vision, and then they move up to the top lane. They're going to push that. They're choking out. This is the third blue buff, I believe, they're contesting in this series. So Gambit always have an objective in mind, and it's really good to see that.
Yeah, as you mentioned, criticize Diamondbox. He places down so many more wards than Dan, but kind of just all over the place. This time with a purpose. And Binsu is heading into the mid lane. He's going to find his old friend of KabaShot to meet him. At this point in the game, KabaShot probably not going to be able to kill him, but over time he will erode the rock. Jinx just get hooked by Gosu Pepper, doesn't decide to eat the oranges just yet. Dan heading back into base, and now starts the siege, but the middle inhibitor's already gone down, so it's going to stop fairly soon.
If you look at KabaShot, his itemization, Triforce was finished, and then obviously, as we mentioned before, full AD composition on the enemy side. What do? You build Frozen Heart. Going on.
Oh, fast engaged, last chance saloon in from Mouse. Dan gets into the fight, but he's already out of the fight, and Jinx has gone down. Betsy just blew him up, and now Beansu's just kind of left by himself. Yes, he's tanky, but if you have no damage behind him, what's the point in having Malphite there? 2-0.
And look at that final item by KabaShot. He's feasting on the tears of Mousesports, and Gambit poised to take game one.
They're going to be taking down the second Nexus turret and the Nexus itself. This Gambit has been on point, and they will be taking it up to Mousesports, taking game one of the series.
Some minor mistakes overall, but clean game plan coming in. The one thing I would highlight here, if I was Sean's, was like, why did you go for that teleport flank with KabaShot on what I believe there was the third dragon after it was already down? Other than that, pick up an early dragon. Pinoy and Pepper need to reevaluate what went wrong in that laning phase. They fell victim to a lot of poke coming out of Cedric and Mountain. Overall, played that well. They're a bot lane that plays very well on maximum range and takes very few bad trades for themselves. That's why they go even so often. I don't think the CS disparity 40 to 60 should come out in this matchup, but overall, fantastic communication yet again. They said, okay, we're falling behind. Diamondbox says, okay, no problem, just survive. I'll be there. He drops a ward. KabaShot comes in with a teleport. And again, bot lane gets punished. And then they go back to top lane. KabaShot has lost nothing, mostly due to the early game. Mouse kind of punished themselves, being a very greedy start. This is why we always see that level 1 invade with 3 wards. You can't start on your weak side of the map and not expect to get invaded, because teams will want to divide the map in two. Enemy supports will always be scouting you. They tried to mind game. Dan got too greedy, lost his flash. And from the beginning of the game, with the weaker jungler, Dan fell behind. Diamondbox exploited that, and that started a snowball for Gambit Gaming.
Yeah, and Gambit really have exposed a lot of the weaknesses we now see in from Mouse, and we were just trying to see what they were looking like in the first game, how that's going to translate to the rest of the series. We now see where those issues are, and Gambit is going to expose them and exploit them as this series goes on. As you mentioned, bot lane as well. that was one of the bigger changes for me. Cedric and Mountain actually getting ahead in that lane, but Gosu Pepe is a well-seasoned support, so I'm sure he can make that work.
Yeah, he definitely made that work. Played enough, defensive enough to not die. That's the most thing. If you're getting punished, just avoid death. Ask for health. Betsy, phenomenal job pushing in early over and over and over, and then sidestepping, whatever it's to top for some pressure, to bot for some pressure, alleviating pressure from his teammates.
Well, that was game 1 going down, so we're going to throw it over to the Alistair to take a look at the first game.